Kiana, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kiana and I do book things here, book reviews, book tags, book vlogs, shopping vlogs, wrap-ups, all of that. Today we are going to be doing yet another review, and that is going to be on the Bookwanders by Anna James, which is a middle grade. One of my goals the past few years has to be to read more middle grades, and I absolutely love this. So let's just go ahead and get started with this review. So welcome to Pages & Co. Ever since her mother's disappearance, 11-year-old Tilly Pages has found comfort in the stories at Pages & Co.'s, her grandparents' bookshop. But when her favorite characters, Anne of Green Gables and Alice from Wonderland, start showing up at the shop, Tilly's adventures become very real. Not only can she follow Anne and Alice into their books, she discovers she can book wander into any story she chooses. Tilly's surprising new ability leads her to fun and exciting adventures, but danger may be lurking on the very next page. When new secrets are uncovered, it's up to Tilly to solve the mystery of what happened to her mother all those years ago. From debut author Anna James comes an enchanting story about the magic of books and the power of imagination. So, I absolutely love this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I bought the second book. I cannot wait to read the second book. My favorite character was, of course, Tilly. She is such a wonderful, 11-year-old girl with so much stuff that has happened to her. Her mother disappeared shortly after she was born, and no one ever talked about it. No one ever told her what her mother was like. They just all got sad and kind of moved on from it. But Tilly has always wondered who her mother was, and they have said her father had died before she was even born. And then Oliver is now Tilly's best friend. Oliver is now Tilly's best friend, and they're going on these adventures with the book wandering, and I absolutely just love them together. My least favorite character, of course, is Enoch. If you have read this book, you know why, and if not, welcome to the spoilers of a book review, because I do spoilers in this, FYI. That's why in every single title it's spoilers towards the end and the stars. What I liked in this book is the build up to finding what Tilly actually is. She swears up and down she is hallucinating, that no, it can't be real, that she's seen Anne of Green Gables in her grandparents' bookshop, and that she's not seeing Alice in her bedroom. And when she goes to try to talk to her grandmother's talking to one of the Bennett sisters from Little Women. I don't remember which one, but then that scares her even more. So then she tries to go to her grandfather, thinking her grandfather could have an explanation for this, and her grandfather is in his office talking to Sherlock Holmes. And I loved how it built up, because she's like, okay, I'm not crazy, this is happening to my grandparents too, but what's going on? Absolutely love that. I loved how they explained it to her and Oliver, what they were, how the world works, what's the hierarchy of it, what happens if you do this, what happens if you do that, them explaining everything to them to a way that a child understands this, because this is a middle grade book. They explain it the way children can understand it, and that's what made it so much better for me. The buildup of Tilly and Oliver's friendship was my favorite too. Tilly had friends, and then they stopped hanging out with her because she did something or said something, and it just made me really sad. And then Oliver's mom's bake shop is right across from the bookshop. Sit down. Sit down. Sit. Thank you. And their build up of the friendship is just my favorite. He sees Anne, he gets taken into the Anne of Green Gables world with her, and it just made it all the better. And I like how, in this being called a book wanderer, we actually see Tilly going into Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. She gets to the Mad Hatter party. She meets Enoch for the first time, who's almost stalking her. He was stalking her because of the relationship with her mother. We see her go to Anne of Green Gables, and she goes to school. She gets in trouble. I loved seeing her actually book wander, because if there was none of that in this story, I really would have been pissed. What I didn't like, at first, when Tilly was trying to tell her grandparents that she was seeing these characters from her books, they brushed her off. They didn't want her knowing, which is understandable considering the fact that Tilly's mom went missing, and they didn't know what it was, or if it had to do with the real world or with the book world. But it kind of annoyed me, because this little girl is swearing up and down something's wrong with her, and the entire time the grandparents knew, and they could have just told her. How they moved on from the fact that Tilly was being bullied. Her friends ditched her for something she said or did, and she told her grandparents because her grandmother had asked her in the beginning of the book, like, oh, why aren't you hanging out with these girls? And she's like, well, they don't like me anymore. And her grandmother was just like, oh, like, let's go read a book. Like, they just quickly brushed past it. And then I didn't like Enoch. So Enoch is, in this book, he's like, who can I compare it to? He's almost like a professor at Hogwarts. Like, he's monitoring everything, making sure nothing goes wrong, no one's messing with the books, because you can actually change the story and how it goes. If you get the original copy, like the first copy that was ever made of the book, you can change it. So he's in charge of that. He didn't like Tilly's grandfather because he swore up and down that Tilly's grandfather wanted the head position, which that was never true. And he never liked Tilly's mother for no reason. But we find that out later on. So he didn't like Tilly's mother because Tilly's mother ended up falling in love with the father from a little princess. And that is how Tilly was conceived. She's half fictional, half real. So that was the whole thing. And then Enoch himself is a character. I believe he's from a Sherlock Holmes book. And because of the bookwanderer who was reading him loved him so much, he brought him to life. And Enoch ended up, I believe he ended up like killing him because of how old he was, and just took over his personality. What I wanted more, they work in a bookstore. I wanted more of the bookstore. I wanted more of how Tilly's mom found out about Enoch. Like, she says that he invited her because he had suspicions of her falling in love with a book character, but then all he said was she was snooping around. What did she find, like, exactly to make her believe he was a character in a book? That was my big question. I want more of book wandering and the dangers in the next book. Like, I know we only got introduced to this in the first book, but in the next book I want more of like the rules and everything. And then I wanted more of Tilly and her mom reuniting. Tilly brought her out of the book, brought them all together, but then we just see them like flash forward, and it's them getting the little princess, and Tilly's mom is showing her like, look, that's your dad, that's who I fell in love with, that's who helped me make you. But I wanted more. So that is all for the Book Wanderer review. I'll be leaving here 2 videos you guys should go check out. I try really hard to post 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes life gets in the way, sometimes work gets in the way, you know, and hopefully I will be seeing you guys very soon with another video.